Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hope you all are having a wonderful morning so far. I am trying to get everything going. Hopper, can you please quit? Good morning. Today is Tuesday. It's AA Day. I am Sandra and I'm an alcoholic and I am doing AA meetings. Good morning, Lily, my twin sister. Oh, I'm tired. Excuse me. Just let some people come in. Hi, Riza. Thank you for coming. Riza always leaves me a good afternoon in the comments. If he is joining in on the live stream or watching the replay, he always puts a comment in the comments, and I appreciate that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the meeting started. Today is Tuesday, December 3rd. Please be kind to one another. Don't be judging each other in the comments. I mean, we only have one judge, and that's the higher power. So please refrain from being mean to people in the comments. Thank you. And also, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. It does help my channel grow. As you all have noticed, I only go live for my AA meetings lately. But it is what it is. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into our meeting. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. If you ever wonder what story we are on, what book we're reading, I always put it in the description. So, just so you know, it's there. Let's go ahead and get the steps done. Number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So my good friend Ava Potterfield and friends made this hat and gave it to a winner, her first ever drawing on her channel, and my twin sister won it. So thank you, Lily and Ava, for this hat and scarf. So we are on 251. and I'm going to start at immediately. Immediately, a great feeling of peace descended upon me, intermingled with a feeling of being suffused with a quiet strength. I lay down on the bed and slept like a child. An hour later, I awoke to a new world. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had changed. The scales had dropped from my eyes, and I could see life in its proper perspective. I had tried to be the center of my own little world, whereas God was the center of a vast universe, of which I was perhaps an essential but a very tiny part. It was over 16 years since I had came back to life. I've never had a drink since. This alone is a miracle. It is, however, only the first of a series of miracles that have followed one another as a result of my trying to apply to my daily life the principles embodied in our 12 steps. I would like to sketch for you the highlights of these 16 years of a slow but steady and satisfying upward climb. Poor health and a complete lack of money necessitated my remaining with Dr. Bob and Ann for very close to a year. It would be impossible for me to pass over this year without mentioning my love for and my indebtedness to these two wonderful people who are no longer with us. They made me feel as if I were a part of their family, and so did their children. The example that they and Bill W., whose visits to Akron were fairly frequent, set for me of service to their fellow men imbued me with a great desire to emulate them. Sometimes during that year I rebelled inwardly at what seemed like lost time, and at having to be a burden to these good people whose means were limited. Long before I had any real opportunity to give, I had to learn the equally important lesson of receiving graciously. During my first few months in Akron, I was quite sure that I never wanted to see my hometown again. Too many economics and social problems would beset me there. I would make a fresh start somewhere else. After 6 months of sobriety, I saw the picture in a different light. Detroit was the place I had to return to, but only because I must face the mess I had made there, but because it was there that I could be of the most service to AA. In the spring of 1939, Bill stopped off in Akron on his way to Detroit on business. I jumped at the suggestion that I accompany him. We spent 2 days there together before he returned to New York. Friends invited me to stay on for as long as I cared to. I remained with them for 3 weeks, using part of the time in making many amends, which I had made no earlier opportunity of making. The rest of my time was devoted to AA spade work. I wanted ripe respects, and I didn't feel that I would get very far chasing individual drunks in and out of bars. So I spent much of my time calling on people who I felt would logically come in contact with alcoholic cases. Doctors, ministers, lawyers, and the personnel men in industry. I also talked AA to every friend who would listen at lunch, at dinner, on street corners. A doctor tipped me off to my first prospect. I landed him and shipped him by train to Akron with a pint of whiskey in his pocket to keep him from wanting to get off the train in Toledo. Nothing has ever Nothing has ever to this day equaled the thrill of that first case. Those 3 weeks left me completely exhausted, and I had to return to Akron for 3 more months of rest. While there, 2 or 3 more cash customers, as Dr. Bob used to call them, probably because they had so little cash, were shipped in to us from Detroit. When I finally returned to Detroit to find work and to learn to stand on my own feet, the ball was already rolling. However slowly, but it took 6 more months of work and disappointments before a group of 3 men got together in my rooming house bedroom for their first AA meeting. My neck. It sounds simple, but there were obstacles and doubts to overcome. I well remember a session I had with myself soon after I returned. It ran something like this: if I go around shouting from the rooftops about my alcoholism, it might very possibly prevent me from getting a good job. But supporting though that just one man died because I had, for selfish reasons, kept my mouth shut. No, I was supposed to be doing God's will, not mine. His road lay clear before me, and I'd better quit rationalizing myself into any detours. I could not expect to keep what I had gained unless I gave it away. The depression was still on, and jobs were scarce. My health was still uncertain, so I created a job for myself, selling women's hosiery and men's made-to-order shirts. This gave me the freedom to do AA work and the rest and to rest for periods of 2 or 3 days when I became too exhausted to carry on. There was more than one occasion when I got up in the morning with just enough money for coffee and toast, and the bus fare to carry me to my first appointment. No sale, no lunch. During that first year, however, I managed to make both ends meet and to avoid ever going back to my old habit pattern of borrowing money when I could not earn it. Here by itself was a great step forward. During the first 3 months, I carried on all these activities without a car, depending entirely on buses and streetcars. I, who always had to have a car at my immediate command, I who had never made a speech in my life, and who would have been frightened sick at the prospect, stood up in front of Rotary groups in different parts of the city and talked about Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, stretch out my leg. I carried away with the desire to serve AA gave what was probably one of the first radio broadcasts about AA. Living through a case of Mike Bright and feeling, sorry guys, try to fix you. There we go. And feeling like $1,000,000 when it was all over. I lived through a week of the fidgets because I had agreed to address a group of alcoholic inmates in one of our state mental hospitals. There it was, the same reward, exhilaration at a mission accomplished. Do I have to tell you who gained the most out of all of this? Within a year of my return to Detroit, AA was a definite established little group of about a dozen members. And I too was established in the modest but steady job handling an independent dry cleaning route of my own. I was my own boss. It took 5 years of AA living and a substantial improvement in my health before I could take a full-time job where someone else was boss. This office job brought me face to face with a problem that I had sidestepped all my adult life: lack of training. This time I did something about it. I enrolled in a correspondence school that taught nothing but accounting. With this specialized training and a liberal business education in the School of Hard Knocks, I was able to set up shop some 2 years later as an independent accountant. 7 years of work in this field brought an opportunity to affiliate myself actively with one of my clients, a fellow AA. We complemented each other beautifully, as he is a born salesman and my taste is for finance and management. At long last, I am doing the kind of work I have always wanted to do, but never had the patience and emotional stability to train myself for. The AA program showed me the way to come down to earth, start from the bottom and work up. This respect represents another great change for me. In the long ago past, I used to start at the top of president or treasurer and end up with the sheriff breathing down my neck. So much for my business life. Obviously, I have overcome fear to a sufficient degree to think in terms of success in business. With God's help, I am able, for one day at a time, to carry business responsibilities that not many years ago I would not have dreamed of assuming. But what about my social life? What about those fears that once paralyzed me to the point of my becoming a semi-hermit? What about my fear of travel? It would be wonderful were I able to tell you that my confidence in God and my application of 12 steps to my daily living have utterly banished fear. But this would not be the truth. The most accurate answer I can give you is this: Fear has never again ruled my life since that day in September 1938, when I found that I found power greater than myself could not only restore me to sanity, but could help me both sober and sane. Never in 16 years have I dodged anything because I was afraid of it. I have faced life instead of running away from it. Some of the things that used to stop me in my tracks from fear still make me nervous in the anticipation of their doing. But once I kick myself into doing them, nervousness disappears and I enjoy myself. In recent years, I have had the happy combination of time and money to travel occasionally. I am apt to get quite into quite an uproar for the day for a day or two before starting, but I do start. And once started, I have a swell time. Have I ever wanted a drink during these years? Only once did I suffer from a nearly overpowering compulsion to take a drink. Oddly enough, the circumstances and surroundings were pleasant. I was at a beautifully set dinner table. I was in a perfectly happy frame of mind, and I had been in AA a year, and the last thing in my mind was a drink. There was a glass of sherry at my place. I was seized with the almost uncontrollable desire to reach out for it. I shut my eyes and asked for God. In 15 seconds or less, the feeling passed. There have also been numerous times when I have thought about taking a drink. Such thinking usually began with thoughts of the pleasant drinking of my youth. I learned early in my AA life that I could not afford to fondle such thoughts as you might fondle a pet, because this particular pet could grow into a monster. Instead, I quickly substituted one or another vivid sense from the nightmare of my later drinking. 20-odd years ago, I made a mess of my one and only marriage. It was therefore not extraordinary that I should shy away from any serious thought of marriage for a great many years after joining AA. Here was something requiring a greater willingness to assume responsibility and a large degree of cooperation and give and take than even business required of one. However, I must have felt deep down inside myself that living the selfish life of a bachelor was only half living. By living alone, you can pretty much eliminate grief from your life, but you also eliminate joy. At any rate, the last great step towards a well-rounded life still lay ahead of me. After Okay, so 6 months ago, I acquired a ready-made family consisting of one charming wife, four grown children, to whom I am devoted, and three grandchildren. Being an alcoholic, I couldn't dream of doing anything by halves. My wife, a sister member in AA, had been a widow 9 years, and I had been single 18 years. The adjustments in such a case are difficult and take time. but we both feel that they are certainly worth it. We are both depending upon God and our use of the Alcoholics Anonymous program to help us make a success of this joint undertaking. Next. It is undoubtedly too soon for me to say how much of a success I shall be as a husband in time to come. I do feel, though, that the fact that I finally grew up to a point where I could even tackle such a job as the apex of the story of a man who spent 18 years running away from life. Yeah, when you're drinking, you're running away from all life that uh, is planned for you, that the higher power is planned for you. Running away from it doesn't help. Okay, Ava, thank you for coming. I'm wearing the hat. My hair's a mess, so I'm wearing the hat. But anyways, when you're drinking, that is one thing that you're really doing, is you're running away from all of your troubles. You're running away from all of your true feelings. Thanks, Ava. I love it too. It's so stylish. I love the colors of Candy Cane. But we can't keep running from our problems, and we can't cover it with alcohol forever. I mean, some people do because they don't find the way out. But there is a way out, and that's the best part of the whole thing. Is AA doesn't hold limits on people. It doesn't say what you have to do. It's not locking you up as like a prisoner and saying you can't leave until you do this, this, and this, because you have to do it on your own pace. You have to be able to understand what it means and find your own path in your sobriety journey. We can't tell you that, oh, well, you need to be, in chapter 10 or whatever by this time. That's not what AA does. And I do scream it from the rooftops that I am a recovering alcoholic. I'm not afraid to say it. Because that's what I am. That's who I am. And my sobriety has become a huge part of my life. I have you all to thank. I have my sponsor to thank. I have my home group to thank. I have my family and my friends to thank for it. And I thank everybody that I'm helping for letting me help them at the same time as helping me. So by me doing these meetings, it's keeping me in the sobriety, because you guys are my responsibility to do these AA meetings for. And for me, it helps because while I'm helping somebody else become sober, stay sober, whatever it is, in the same time, I'm working my program while you're working yours. And I've been working my program for 10 years, and I will never stop. As long as I have a choice, I will not stop. I will continue to travel on my sobriety journey and hopefully take you along. Hopefully people are getting something that they need from these videos, from these meetings. I know a lot of people would never do this. Call me nuts, but I'm proud to do it. And before I ever started doing these meetings here on YouTube and Facebook, I had to reach out to my dear friend, Ava Potterfield and Friends, and ask her, what do you think about me starting AA on YouTube? And she wasn't so sure. And once I started, then she was sure. She says, you really should do that. You become a different person when you're speaking about your sobriety. And it's the truth. And AA has taught me that I need to use my voice and share the program, not just keep it to me. But I need to help others with the gift that I got. And I got it for free. And I'm so blessed to be sober and to be able to help others in sobriety, get sober, stay sober, what have you. I'm just so glad that I can do this. And I like to go over some of the stuff that I have highlighted. It's past where we are in the book right now, but it's alright. This is in the next chapter. It says, he said he had finally learned that drinking was a fatal illness made up of an allergy plus an obsession, and once the drinking had passed from habit to obsession, we were completely hopeless and could look forward only to spending the balance of our lives in mental institutions or to death. It's the truth. My birth father died of they said congestive heart failure, but he never quit drinking. He was an alcoholic my whole life. And he did some really bad things. But he was drunk and he never remembered it. And he stayed drunk all the way up until he died. And that's sad. That is so sad. Not because he didn't apologize or anything like that, but because he never got sobriety. And here me and my sister are celebrating our sobriety every day. Even on our bad days and our worst days. And, you know, he didn't want to be a good father. He didn't want to be a good grandfather. He just wanted to hurt everybody. He hurt more than enough people. And he died with that. And, you know, so this last weekend, I was put in a predicament with a family member. So my mom is on oxygen full time, and you know, we all know that she's got to be on that all the time. So we ended up going to the hospital, and don't worry, she's fine now. I thank everybody for your prayers. I just say some more for her. But she's fine. She's at home. But I had a family member that showed up, and she was talking about some stuff, and I looked at her and I said, all we can do is pray. There's nothing else that anybody can do except for pray. And holy moly, man, she jumped my shit quicker than nothing. She's like, I don't believe in God, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, whoa. And so finally I was like, you don't have to be so mean. I was calm. But I said, you don't have to be so mean. And you need to find a higher power. And she started off on it again, and I said, no, all I said was find a higher power. A higher power is not God, but it's something bigger than yourself. and you really need to find it. Boy, did that tick her off, and she left. And I'm sorry to my mom, but that's not a place to be mean like that, no matter what. Talking bad about paramedics and doctors and nurses while you're in the emergency room. Really? Come on now. So yeah, I said you need to find a higher power, and she took that as a bad thing. So at that point, so maybe she figured it out after that. So I don't know what happened, but Hopper, please get out of there. But yeah, so I told her that she needed to find that higher power, and uh, because she doesn't believe in God, which is fine. I don't. Will you get out of my laundry? This dog is a weirdo. You're a weirdo. But you need a, when you are in a tight spot like that, for me, I just took a deep breath and I just simply said, you need to find your higher power, and it's something bigger than yourself. All I said, I left it at that, and I stopped talking. Well, apparently, you know, it wasn't important enough for her to sit down and be quiet and just talk to mom and have a decent conversation. So she grabbed her stuff and left. Hey, I'm sorry, but you know, like that over somebody saying you need to pray, or all we can do is pray, that's pretty lame. But whatever. But I did make amends to my mom. I apologized for my part in that to my mom, and um, you know, my mom's like, you were right. She doesn't need to be acting like that back here. Um, and then my other sister was bad mouthing me in text messages when all I said to her the night before was, "Mom's home and going to bed, and call her in the morning." And somehow that brought back, um, she's not coming in that morning, and it's all on me, on me. And I was like really confused, like what? All I said was, "Mom's going to bed, call her in the morning." And I got, "It's all on you." What's all on me? That mom's home going to bed? I mean, really? At least you got a text or you got a phone call. That's all I could do. But it scared me really bad. So I've been on an emotional roller coaster because I watched it and it scared me. That's why I didn't do a meeting on Sunday. On Sundays, because I couldn't stop crying. I slept until 10 o'clock Sunday morning. I didn't get to sleep until 1 a.m. But it was a very emotional weekend, and um, I'm just glad she's still here. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and read the daily reflections and get on with the day. if I can get my eyeballs cleared out. December 3rd, in all our affairs, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, page 106. I find that carrying the message of recovery to other alcoholics is easy because it helps me to stay sober and it provides me with a sense of well-being about my own recovery. The hard part is participating in or practicing these principles of all my affairs. In all my affairs, sorry. It is important to share the benefits I receive from AA, especially at home. Doesn't my family deserve the same patience, tolerance, understanding I so readily give to the alcoholic? When reviewing my day, I try to ask, did I have a chance to be a friend today and miss it? Did I have a chance to rise above a nasty situation and avoid it? Did I have a chance to say I'm sorry and to refuse to? Just as I ask God for help with my alcoholism each day, I ask for help in extending my recovery to include all situations and all people. Amen. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Be safe out there, be kind, and just know that if you are struggling today, there is help out there. Please don't give up. Don't give in. Just know that you're never alone. There are people there that will listen and that can help. If you want to find a meeting, do the Google search. They are everywhere. I should know. I found a meeting in the middle of nowhere. And, but please, just know that you're not alone. And, there's help. And to get sober, you have to want it for you. And you would be the right reason. And I know I got sober for me. And I love you guys. So, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys. Love you guys.